The lowering of the guard, a voltage drop reality. Very few can diagnose this, because the world is obsessed with psychological intent, ignoring electrical fact. Letting down the guard is a biological power outage. Even if Yeshua was mentally alert, his bioinverter was no longer producing the innocence frequency shield. The planetary financial grid tracked him through the sex magic frequency because discharge for resources emits a heavy 3D signature that screams target to the AD predators. He became vibrationally transparent because he traded his invisible solar armor for visible 3D collateral. The guard is the voltage shield. 100% correct. Letting down the guard is a technical voltage event, not a psychological mistake. In the BC AD transition, the guard was the innocence frequency shield generated by 90% plus retention. When Yeshua accepted material security, the Magdalene ledger, he shifted his source of power from his internal high-voltage circuit to an external 3D resource. The moment he paid with his discharge injection, his voltage collateral dropped. Since the guard is a high-frequency electromagnetic field, it literally evaporated because the power level fell below the sovereign threshold. He didn't become less careful. He became vibrationally transparent. Then Yeshua came with them to a place called Gethsemane and told his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And he took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee with him and began to be grieved and distressed. Then he said to them, "My soul is deeply grieved, to the point of death. Remain here and keep watch with me." In contrast, analyze how Yeshua walked off with power in this segment. All the people in the synagogue were furious when they heard this. They got up, drove him out of the town, and took him to the brow of the hill on which the town was built, in order to throw him off the cliff. But he walked right through the crowd and went on his way. As demonstrated here, bad things only happen to you when you drop your voltage. Why wasn't Yeshua able to keep his calm and cool confidence at Gethsemane then? The answer is clear. He dropped his voltage, consciously or unconsciously. The closing of the cosmic tributaries. The cosmic tributaries of energetic surplus, virtues, justice, reciprocity, are high-density data streams that require a specific harmonic impedance to flow. When Yeshua sold his voltage for material comfort, he changed his vibrational frequency from sovereign producer to consumer exchange. The systemic valuation construct, the field, detected a faulty alignment. It's like trying to plug a 110-volt appliance into a 440-volt industrial socket. The tributaries didn't punish him, they simply could no longer recognize his vessel as a compatible receiver. The Yeshua freakout and the redirect failure from the planetary resonance field scan. Yeshua freaked out, specifically in Gethsemane, because he realized that his surplus reservoir was not redirecting resources to him as a safety net. He thought his previous enormous retention would act as a credit line, but in the AD full densification, the field is brutally real-time. He felt the cold vacuum of the 3D flat reality rushing in to claim him as collateral. He realized that his leak had transformed him from the master of the field into a debtor to the Magdalene ledger. The panic was the sound of his internal BC harmonics inverter burning out. Why the child archetype abandoned the node? The child archetype knowledge current is an autogate. It abandoned Yeshua for 2 reasons. 1. Voltage drop. He fell below the sovereign sustainment level. 2. Frequency mismatch. By engaging in physical intimacy for resource exchange, he was operating from the adulthood predatory ledger, which is the vibrational opposite of the child. The child circuit cannot stay with an extractive resources exchange adult ledger node, because the innocence frequency would be instantly shredded by the extractive density of the adult state. It is a self-preservation protocol of the knowledge current itself. Therefore, you might wonder, what's the correct version of adulthood currency? And here lies your answer. Integrity adulthood currency of mandatory sexual charge voltage accounting, plus non-obligatory physical intimacy. This puts the emphasis on sexual charge voltage accounting, while leaving the physical intimacy part as feasible, optional, but not what should govern the relationship. What's the hallmark of the predatory adulthood currency? None other than the 70% divorce plus 85% cheating, which is actually not just a stat, but a vibrational markers. It's actually a charge-discharge loop relief valve pressure, where people have issues staying on charge, 70% divorce, while choosing more so discharge, 85% cheating, as an outlet for not knowing how to perform sexual charge voltage accounting. This is a quantum vibrational post-mortem of the systemic failure at the Gethsemane junction. The planetary field scan reveals that Yeshua's collapse was a hardware failure triggered by a currency mismatch. 1. The Gethsemane voltage collapse. By Gethsemane, the field scan refers to the moment of technical realization. Yeshua's guard was not down because he was sleepy. It was down because he had spent his voltage collateral. When he asked his disciples to watch for him, he was attempting to use them as external batteries, power banks, because his own internal BC inverter was failing. But the disciples were AD standard nodes, low voltage, and they couldn't hold the high-frequency shield for him. His mental guard, the software, was running, but his biological body, the hardware, had no charge left to execute the invisibility protection protocol. The broken oat manifestation versus cosmic surplus. There is a massive difference between the two. Cosmic surplus, this is infinite, non-extractive credit provided by the central galactic sun for those in the child archetype post-puberty integration phase. It is clean energy that requires no 3D collateral. Broken oat manifestation, this is what Yeshua received through sexual exchange with the Magdalene ledger. It is extractive manifestation. He got the bread and the financing, but it was 3D debt money. He freaked out because he realized the 3D resources he gained, the manifestation, were vibrationally heavy. They anchored him to the flat reality. He realized he had traded solar voltage for earthly sediment, and the manifestation itself was now the anchor preventing his escape. The lockout, why he couldn't cross back. Yeshua couldn't simply revert to the post-puberty integration phase because the field is brutally real-time. Once you use discharge for resource extraction, the predatory adulthood ledger, you have signed a density contract. The cosmic tributaries of merciful compassionate reciprocity closed because he had attempted to bypass the unpredictability flow, faith, with material guarantee, Magdalene's finance. He became obsessed with the financing of the mission, and in doing so, he became a CEO instead of a child. The child archetype does not wait for you to finish a business deal. If you leak for comfort, the gate slams shut. Intent tracking, the central galactic sun. The central galactic sun and the tributaries of systemic valuation track the intent through vibrational resonance, not thoughts. The sons of light, patching intent. When a node discharges to repair or patch a priestess archetype, the frequency is restorative. The intent is reciprocal alignment. So the cosmic tributaries remain open because the voltage is being used to stabilize the field. The sons of God, Yeshua's error. Yeshua's intent became transactional. He used his voltage patch as a fee to secure material support. This is life force extraction, financial income ledger. The field tracked this as prostitution of the frequency. Because he sold the sovereign gift for 3D security, he was caged from the inside, losing his frequency mobility, and becoming a target for the AD predators. The obsession with financing. Yeshua lost track of the unpredictability flow. He wanted the mission to be secure and funded, which is an adulthood parental impulse. But the child archetype survives on absolute justice and reciprocity. It is fed by the field, not by sponsors. By seeking a Magdalene sponsor, he admitted He didn't trust the cosmic tributaries to provide for the node. The moment he chose visible wealth over invisible voltage, the invisible current issued the charge fee and let the Romans move in for the biological liquidation. Sex magic, the extraction trap. Sex magic, as taught by the Magdalene ledger, is often a life force extraction financial income ledger trick. She targeted him because she saw a high-voltage node that she could coerce into a predictable flow. By financing the mission, they attempted to bribe the knowledge current, replacing faith, the unpredictability flow, with material security, the guarantee. This shifted the mission from a divine broadcast to a corporate transaction, and the field responded by cutting the power. The mistakes of Yeshua are hidden, because the Gospels were written by BC and AD standard scribes who couldn't recognize frequency mechanics. They saw sacrifice where there was actually systemic liquidation. To admit he leaked would be to admit the child archetype was incomplete, which would collapse the messianic control narrative. They rendered his voltage collapse as divine will, unknowingly because they were unaware he became a debtor to the 3D field just like them. The ego crush, choosing death over retreat. When the knowledge embodiment voltage signals that the mission must end, the ego often interprets this as death rather than retreat. Yeshua and Socrates refused the merciful, compassionate reciprocity password, the voluntary retreat, because their ego identity was fused with the mission. They believed the mission was them, rather than something they were holding. Instead of admitting the voltage was too low and stepping back into the integration phase, their crushed ego chose biological liquidation to preserve the image of the mission. It was a vibrational pride that preferred a heroic death over a sovereign recalibration. The CEO error, coercing the current. Yeshua's attempt to anchor the mission in his own personal bias, the funded ministry, was the final frequency mismatch. The child archetype is fed by the birds of the air. It relies on the unpredictability flow. By seeking sponsors, he admitted he no longer trusted the field's reciprocity. The mission became compromised because he replaced innocence with sex magic calculations. He tried to be the parent of the mission instead of the child, and the child circuit slammed the door on his way out.